This conference will now be recorded.
All right, everyone. Again, welcome. My name is Amanda. I am the Center Director at Brain Balance of San Diego. Welcome this evening. I'm so glad you decided to join us to learn more about brain balance, as well as learn a little bit more about your child's sensory sensitivities and when you should be concerned, essentially. All right. So I want to get started showing you a little bit of a tour of brain balance and introduce you to John as well, who again will be supporting us with this workshop, and then we'll get right into it. So, oops, sorry, actually, let me go to the next page. Want to let you know what other things we're going to cover first. So today's topics, again, we're going to do a quick tour of brain balance. We're going to talk about some sensory processing issues. What are some common signs and challenges, as well as triggers, and then real tips that you can take away today to start managing those sensory sensitivities, and maybe even purchase some sensory items that may help your child. And then afterwards, how brain balance might be able to help you as well. So as we go around our tour, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing so you can see more of the center. But this is the front of our building. We are in Carmel Mountain. We're a pretty large center here, and I'm really happy to announce we will be having another center opening in Chula Vista this summer as well. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. All right, so I'm going to turn my camera around. All right, when you first come in, you're going to see either Kenny, our coordinator, or right now it is John, our executive director, or one of our staff members. My office is just as you come in. And when our families come in, what you get to see is our lobby area and the get ready station, basically, and restrooms around the corner. Because of COVID protocols right now, we are asking everyone to get their temperature checked, wash their hands, take their shoes off. And then our facility is quite large. We have 4 rooms here. I'm going to take you to our largest sensory motor room. And maybe you've been in a room like this before. But in here, we look at many different areas of development and really the whole child. We have a really unique integrated approach. So we have to look at areas like gross motor skills, fine motor skills, auditory processing, visual processing. We'll look at your vestibular system. We even look at bilateral movements, which means both parts of your brain to talk to one another, rhythm and timing, and many other activities. And I'll talk more about why we have to look at all of that, especially when it comes to your kiddo with sensory sensitivities. It's all about brain connectivity and efficiency. And so together we'll learn more about what that means and what disconnections like that mean. And overall here at Brain Balance, just so you know, we work with a lot of different challenges, whether you're diagnosed or not. And let me pull up my screen again so you can see a little bit about what I'm talking about. So here at Brain Balance, we work with a wide range of students, as I mentioned, from age 4 to 24 who are developmentally delayed. So again, diagnosis or not doesn't matter, but we do work with a lot of students with ADHD or issues with attention and focus, autism or Asperger's as well, processing disorders, of course, which is what our topic is about tonight, but also social issues, behavioral issues, emotional control issues, and many, many other areas all in between, right? So let's talk about sensory processing issues, right? That's why you're here. So sensory processing issues are difficulties organizing and responding to the stimuli coming through your senses, okay? Many people may be oversensitive to the input or undersensitive, or oftentimes both. And oftentimes it's called sensory processing disorder or sensory integration dysfunction. And essentially, when parents ask me, when should I be concerned or is this normal? I think about the impact in their life and I look at patterns of behavior and effects basically. And if it has a serious impact on their learning and everyday life, if you're fighting, if your child's crying or having a meltdown every day, and that's not age appropriate, right? That's not normal when you're 5. It's not normal when you're 10. That's when you want to ask a few more questions. Here are a couple other lesser known senses though that we don't tend to think about, but also play into how we perceive and respond to the environment around us, including interoception. So this is how you feel what's going on in your body, right? Kids who have trouble with this have a hard time, say with toilet training, right? They can't quite sense what they're feeling. Or maybe I know someone who registered for this workshop tonight said their child, when they feel warm, actually, I think it was on social media today, and my apologies, but when their child feels something that's warm to everyone else, it feels very hot to her. And I empathize with it. That must be really scary for your child. And then there's another area that we also assess here. It's called body awareness or proprioception. That's how you sense your physical self around, the space around you, which relates to spatial orientation as well, which I mentioned. The vestibular system, very important. It all has to be working in sync and together. So when it comes to common signs and challenges, whether you're hypersensitive or hyposensitive, you may see some different things. And again, sometimes, quite often, kids have both hypersensitivity and hyposensitivity. So as you kind of look through this list, see what you can check off for your child. Are they sensitive to noises, and do they prefer quieter spaces? Are they sensitive to touch, or clothing textures or hemlines? Maybe bright lights or energies or a lot of people, crowds, might be scary. Maybe they're sensitive to smells or have really strong reactions to foods, or just real extremely picky eaters, right? Beyond what's normal, even poor balance or poor coordination. Or does your child really engage in roughhousing, not understanding boundaries, and again, threshold for pain? Maybe they're a thrill seeker and engage in risky behavior. They don't understand personal space. We call that a space invader, or need to have excessive, be excessively held. So those are some things to look out for as a sign and a symptom of a sensory processing challenge. What's going on with the brain, I was hinting at this, is these disconnections that might be causing issues with these symptoms, maybe even with learning or making friends. And essentially what you want is for all the parts of your brain to communicate with each other effectively, efficiently. I like to think of the brain like a big highway, and essentially you want that carpool lane, right? No traffic, no issues. You get from point A to point B in the most efficient, quick, smooth route ever. But a lot of times with the kids that we see, and I imagine probably some of your kiddos, those pathways, those neural pathways may be getting stopped at traffic. Maybe they're getting rerouted. Maybe there's the scenic route that they unintentionally take, or maybe they just get lost, right? Those connections in the brain need to be working efficiently together for us to function at our best. It does not mean that we're perfect people when everything is connected appropriately. It just means we don't struggle, and we're not so fearful or reactive to the world around us that your children might be experiencing right now. So those disconnections, those imbalances, there are some early indicators, right, from what you're seeing now, but maybe early on they missed some critical milestones. Maybe they're having trouble learning right now, or social issues, even with their coordination, like I said, with their body. So there are some red flags, especially the things that we just talked about with hyper or hyposensitivity. But the good news is the brain can change, right? The neuroplasticity is so important and so unique, and is being talked about way more now than it ever has been. And there's many things you can do to help them. So let's go right into it. So you can have hopefully a little bit more of a peaceful household and a child that isn't as stressed, okay? Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. Common triggers, that's important to know. How do you help them? One of the things to note is, what are the triggers, right? So some of the triggers for kiddos might be a change in the schedule or activities or sleep. That's really important. Having a consistent structure is important because it calms the nervous system. It allows for predictability, right? And when you disrupt that and they don't expect it, we do need to teach children how to be flexible, but sometimes for kids who have sensory processing challenges, that is a common trigger, all right? Maybe the bright lights, that's pretty common. Colors, decoration, maybe it's just, especially during the holidays, it's pretty common. It's just a little bit too much for them, right? Very overwhelming, overstimulated. Think about foods though, too. If you're going to a restaurant or to a food hall, maybe there's a lot of different aromas, maybe, even candle shop. When I walk by the candle shops at malls, I always hold my breath because it's a little overwhelming for me as well. We talked about the volume in the room, loud music. Think about the clothes that your children have to wear each day, right? What's socially appropriate? Can they wear soft pants, or do they have to wear a uniform? Or if it's the holidays, having to wear, this kind of stuffy shirt, right? Eating different foods, as we talked about, that picky eating, that may be a sensory processing challenge, and then the new people in crowds. So what do you do? Tips to manage. So one of the things, if you're planning to go out, is discuss the schedule, talk about expectations, maybe create a visual schedule, and make sure you don't over schedule what's happening for the day, right? If you have to run a bunch of errands, does your child have to be with you for all of it? How do you spread it out and make sure that they don't become overwhelmed, right? Making sure you also have a take a break or quiet option. I know some of our kids in our center use code words when they're starting to get overwhelmed, or even a signal in the classroom. That's important, so you're not always having to vocalize and draw attention to yourself. And then in general, plan to be active ahead of time so that you're not feeling squirrely if your kiddo is one of those who need to move before they have to settle in, okay? Another big thing is think about bringing earplugs or even noise canceling headphones. That can really support a lot of people who just struggle with the energy and the noises and the people around them. So it just helps calm the system. Eating clean is really important. That's a big part of our program as well. Brain balance is not just about the sensory motor exercises and the social emotional learning that we teach a lot, but the clean diet, a low inflammatory diet. Because if your system is inflamed, it's just a lot harder, right, for the information in your brain to talk to one another. So really limit the treats, especially the sugar, eat healthy meals. And if you're going to go somewhere and you know your child is sensitive to certain foods like gluten or dairy or sugars, then bring food alternatives. Pack your child's lunch rather than take advantage of the lunch at school. So the more options, the more planning, the better. I mentioned sleep earlier. Sleep is key. You can't ever make up sleep, and sleep, especially for kids with neurodevelopmental disorders, they tend to need more sleep than the average person. So getting quality sleep and having a good bedtime routine is important. Something I always try to mention is thinking about a go to bed alarm. We tend to think about alarms to wake up, but what about going to bed so that you're actually getting that process going, which can take a while, right? For some kids, especially if they don't want to brush their teeth or take showers. Some of your kids might fight you on that at night, right? And so it's not a great experience, right? And it's not very calming to go to bed. So starting that routine early, knowing their triggers and accommodating for that as much as possible is key. And then getting that good night's sleep, waking up rested, and then starting that day with a nice healthy meal is going to be important. So again, routine, right? Limit screen time. Right now, that's of course hard to say if your child is still doing distance learning, but screen time in general, it's easy to give them the phone or give them iPad when they're screaming or to keep them occupied. But studies show there is such a thing as screen fatigue, and some children are extremely sensitive to the stimuli in front of them. And so reduce it as much as possible. If you are going to do screen time, maybe think about doing it together, like a family movie night, right? And make sure, of course, that they're earning the screen time and not something they're just given automatically and something you take away when they're misbehaving. Earning screen time and trying to do it together is key. But stay active, as I mentioned. Think about playing games and crafts together, cooking together. There's a lot of math and science that can happen in the kitchen. And overall exercise is really, really important for the brain. Stimulating your senses and movement are key. Those are the most powerful triggers for the different neurons in your brain to talk to one another. So move your body, eat well, and stimulate your senses, okay? Really consider the level and amount of stimuli. So again, that's a big trigger for a lot of folks. So think about the type of entertainment or decorations or just the sights to be seen at the place that you're going to be, even your own home, the music and noise level, the number of people and the energy that's going on, what you have to wear, the foods, aromas, all your senses, right? There's a sensory processing issue right now. Every single sense you need to think about it and then really understand how your child processes all of that in each situation. And then lastly, you have to monitor, no matter what's going on. It of course takes a lot of energy, but it's necessary if you want to keep your child from being overstimulated, from preventing the meltdowns. Essentially, supervise and pay attention to those signs of escalation, and that when your child's being overwhelmed, basically, and implement those breaks and learn to exit before those meltdowns. All right, so have a plan. That's always huge, no matter what the issue is, whether it's attention and focus, sensory processing, social challenges. Planning ahead is key. Prepping them, right? A lot of prompting, and then it just keeping the whole child in mind, okay? Keep your expectations realistic. If your child has a hard time staying focused or not being overwhelmed after 30 minutes, then stick to that and plan around that. And you can even practice desensitizing them to different situations and stimuli to extend that shelf life for your child. But definitely keep your expectations realistic so the frustration level for both you and your child stay low. Make sure you take care of you though. That's probably one of the #1 tips. Keep your stress low, because if you can keep your stress low, then your child's stress hopefully stays low as well. Here's some other helpful sensory items I wanted to talk about. So those other tips to manage, right, requires you planning ahead and kind of knowing your child, get to know your child. But in the moment, what can you do to keep them calm and keep their nervous system and even vestibular system in check, all right, their equilibrium in check? Over here on the left, we have one of our students, Sydney. These are some of the items we have in center. A bean bag or some kind of swing or kind of pouch. There's a lot of these squirrel suits that kids can wear too. Sometimes your body just needs that tight kind of hug, right? Even think about the rash guards when you go out to the beach. That tight pressure on the body can help calm the system. And then noise canceling headphones we talked about, weighted blankets, but there's also weighted vests, something you can wear around. Sometimes kids wear weighted backpacks to help slow them down and help, give their body that extra stimulation that they need to bring calm. There's also a lot of squishy fun toys. So we have another student in the center there squishing one of our balls. Sensory balls or sensory bins are really helpful. And to the far bottom right, there's a sensory brush. If you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you purchase one. They're really smooth, really soft, and can really help calm a child down. So that sensory brush, just brushing it on the arm or on the face, wherever is comfortable to them, is neat. We also recommend, a lot of our kids do really well with a trampoline. Keep in mind though, your child may not be very coordinated to jump well on the trampoline, but it's very good for the brain and stimulating the brain and those connections, okay? So a trampoline is key. Again, a swing you can stand on or swing in. There's also these break boxes or sensory boxes. So I call it a take a break box. So that's helpful too. You can pack it with a lot of different sensory items, from soft to rough items, noise canceling headphones, soft squishies, weighted stuffed animals. Those are really nice too to put on the chest. And sometimes you can even put essential oils to have a little bit of aromatherapy. Different smells, by the way, stimulate different parts of the brain, so that could be calming for your child. If your child is a chewer, there's a lot of different chew toys or fidget toys, even bracelets that you can tap, or items you can put on your pencil to squish to keep yourself stimulated. And then this top right corner there is kind of like a sensory corner or a sensory room. You can put up those fun lights. As a kid, I really loved the kind of astronomy looking lights, the stars that project, and it just spins around the room. Those are really nice for a lot of kids. Those are some sensory gel pads, tiles that you could put down too. But just a little sensory corner, sensory room to, again, bring the calm and stimulate those senses is key. That's what they need, right? They're either being overstimulated or understimulated, and you just need to figure out what your individual child needs, okay? So question is, again, is it normal? I talked about how it's important to see the pattern of behavior and also the impact that it has in their life. And if you have already tried some of these items, know that a lot of these types of suggestions are accommodations, right? And in the moment, how do you support them? But it doesn't really address the underlying issue, which is, why are they screaming when the fan in the bathroom goes off or the toilet gets flushed, or screaming because they don't want to eat that piece of food that you made for dinner, right? Why is key. Understanding the foundation of their development and that disconnection in the brain is key. And that's what an assessment I would recommend, basically. And our assessment, we do look at the whole child, as I mentioned. This is an example of quite a few things that we assess and look at to really help you understand the overall connections. It's not something that you tell us, hey, my child is a picky eater, let's look at some food allergies. That's just the symptom, right? We want to know the whole picture. What's going on? What's causing these potential disconnections that might be resulting in the symptoms that you're seeing? So our assessment is extremely comprehensive that you won't really see anywhere else, but also keep in mind, we are a non-medical program, so we don't diagnose, and hopefully that, is okay, because in the end, it's understanding why, right? We're not really focused on giving you a label. It's why your child is struggling, and this is what we can do about it. So our assessment, if you're interested, is usually about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, just depends on the age of your child and their abilities. We usually meet about 24 to 48 hours afterwards to go over the report. The cost is $195, so it's quite affordable. There's no obligation after that. And for being a part of this workshop, we are offering an assessment special of $145, and that is valid until tomorrow, Friday. And I'll be following up with you, or you can follow up with us as well if you don't hear from me, to learn more and hopefully get yourself on the book. So we are pretty busy with assessments, especially with kids going back to school now. The challenges that folks have seen during distance learning, that's always been there, right? And now going back to school, it's great, and parents know they need child needs help. So if your child needs help, give us a call, or if you just want to know some other resources or folks that I can send you to in the community, we have a lot of great community partners. Please reach out as well. So Brain Balance, we are a very unique program that strengthens and builds these important connections across the brain through physical, sensory, and cognitive activities, as well as confidence building activities and nutrition. And we've been around for over 10 years. We've worked with over 45,000 families. We have a lot of great successes. Again, we work with so many different types of families and so many different types of challenges. So give us a call. I invite you to discover life after Brain Balance. Here's some examples of some of the great success stories that we're able to see here at Brain Balance, even in San Diego, actually, from kids who really had a hard time socializing, and now they're able to connect to other peers, right? Because that self-awareness is there now, as well as maybe they're less sensitive to their environment, so they can actually handle interacting with friends. Kids who've learned to coordinate their bodies and learn how to ride their bike, or even learn how to drive. That's been really important for a lot of teenagers that have come through our program. In the center bottom there, actually both kiddos, girls in the center, had a lot of sensory sensitivities to clothing and to their environment. And Michelle at the top there is one of our best success stories. Completely different child when she started the program. Never looked at the camera, didn't smile, could be in a dark room by herself, and now she's smiling and thriving and doing well in school. And it's really, really incredible the impact we can make. And bottom left there, we also have a kiddo who learned how to communicate more, right? Was not as verbal when he first started, was wetting the bed, and now, again, a different children who can succeed in school now. You can see Dakota at the bottom right there just celebrating. She worked hard, so she's a kiddo who struggled, got a lot of calls home from school on pretty much a daily basis, and this year, very, very little challenges. So we're really proud of our students. We work really hard, but we work with the families. So I encourage you to stay connected with us. Give us a call for a free consultation or in-center assessment. You can text us as well. If you know of anybody else that can use our services, or just to ask questions, let them know. And here's a couple of books too that will help you understand those connections I'm talking about with the brain, how it affects your child's functioning, okay? And also, if you're not on social media with us, please follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, quite a bit, and our website, brainbalancesandiego.com, also has a lot of resources and some other webinars and blogs that I recommend you check out as well. And again, if you're curious for specific resources, just message us so you're not kind of going down the rabbit hole, okay? All right, and I wanted to share a couple upcoming events at the end of this month in celebration of Remake Learning Days and San Diego Festival of Science and Engineering. We also are promoting a STEAM Week contest where your kiddos can pick up a free STEAM kit. I'll show you right now. Here's one of the examples that our student Sean made, but one vehicle, whether it's a tank, a car, a helicopter, anything, you get to engineer it from scratch. You get all the supplies, and then we want you to work your left and right brain. So you're going to engineer everything, work as a team, and then create a story about it. And we are teaming up with San Diego Automotive Museum as well to give winners tickets to the museum, but also a chance for you to display your vehicle and your story there. So pretty excited about that. And it's free, yes, and it is free, but it is limited supplies, best for ages 5 to 14. So please make sure you register, whether you're at the bit.ly/bbsd STEAM 2021 or bbsd STEAM 2021.eventbrite.com, okay, whichever one is easiest for you. And then in May, talking about your child's rights and the resources they need help with, we have an IP rights, what parents need to know workshop with Thomas Nelson, a local special education attorney. He's amazing, and he's helped a lot of our families in San Diego County. So check that out. RSVP will be coming soon in May. All right. All right, so I want to leave it open to some questions now. And I do see someone from Turkey. Hello, welcome back. We love having you, but it's 7 o'clock right now, so if you have to jump off, that's okay. Please, again, send me a message. But if you have a question, please feel free to either unmute yourself or you can type in the chat box, okay? I'm also going to stop the recording now so that if you want to speak, if that's easier, or want to put your face on the screen, you won't be recorded. But thank you for joining us if you do head out.